On the topic of sports card gambling versus collecting, I'm going to be sharing with you my 2 cents. Why? Because I believe there's an important principle that most are forgetting. You ready? Then let's do it. Well, hey, hello and welcome, rookie card collecting friends. Today, this is going to be somewhat of a reaction video to a multitude of videos. And it basically deals with a topic that has struck a chord within the community. And that is the differences between a gambler and a collector and the nuances of each. So we're going to dive into this with the first video that really captured my attention on this topic was by Neo Cards and Comics. And basically some of the key points that he was giving in this video was that a small element of gambling has always existed within the hobby. He was staking his claim that when we were opening packs in the 80s and 90s, hoping for that key rookie card or hoping for that key insert card, that was a form of gambling per se. And he goes on to say that that's not changing the way, or let me just say, in his opinion, that's not going to change either, that this element of gambling is always going to be here. He also had some key points that caught my attention, and that is that collectors are mad because they're priced out. Now that's a heavy statement, perhaps somewhat of a true statement, but we're going to be digging into this one a lot more. Industry makes more money with gamblers. That was a pretty bold statement to say, and he seems to think that the industry is more apt to uh, service the gambler type and not the collector type. That they're more focused and they're going to make more money off the gambler types than they are going to on the collectors. That's debatable, right? But the key thing here, as we look at all these opinions, is that they're just that, and we are all entitled to our opinion. Neil also seems to think that people want action, and gambling provides that form of entertainment, that gambling that really excites people to get more involved because it's exciting and there's action behind it, right? And he seems to think now that 2025 the kids don't care, and he made a key point in that when you're talking younger kids, say like between the ages of 5 to 10, they are more collector focused and they have that innocence of collecting. But he seems to think that as soon as these kids get into teenage years, all of that is out the window. Now they're more apt to want the action of the gambling side of things. And so that was an interesting take, and one that I can probably agree with. Um, then the next video was with Dan the Card Man, and Dan kind of pushes back a bit on Neil's take. He seems to think that the economics were different back in the 80s and 90s, and that this level of gambling was not the case. Dan also seems to think that collectors being priced out is an issue, is the main issue, and I can get on board with that. And he's basically making a case that the market goes up as well. Not only does the gambling and all that excitement raise the price and raises the stakes, it raises the stake on the entire market, and I can agree with that. But Dan's biggest contention is that he feels that a lot of this is grooming children towards gambling. And lastly, Dan makes an argument for artificial liquidity. You hear him use that term pretty frequently in his videos, but he has a concern of that this turning assets or turning cards into cash, that it's all very artificial. You basically have to spend $100 in order to make 20. And he just thinks that the scales are off balance. If I'm understanding these guys correctly, if I'm misinterpreting them, please feel free to leave a comment down below. But this is kind of what I'm gathering off of everybody's arguments. And then the third one is Dustin of Sports Card Dad. he jumped in on this conversation, made a very passionate video on the topic. Was actually quite surprised when I watched this video because it was a little bit out of character from what I'm used to with Dustin. And but he made it very evident that he wanted to dispel a myth that, in the way he sees it, in his opinion, gamblers do not represent the majority of the hobby, that collectors do. And I totally agree with Dustin's viewpoint on that. I'm going to go ahead and leave a link to all these videos because I find the topic very compelling. And if you do too, I want to give you the opportunity to listen to their arguments and their cases in its entirety. But these passionate takes that these gentlemen have did not start with them. They were all started by a gentleman by the name of Rob Veras. Hopefully you've heard of him by now. But Rob, here in the last couple of weeks, he posted a video on Instagram as he has been opening up a new card shop, and he's been sharing with us the journey every step of the way, the challenges. Now, Rob has been preaching a very strong message lately. He actually, for quite some time, I love Rob in the position that he holds within the hobby. He's that one old school guy that still has that collector gene, that is really got his foot in the door with fanatics. And really, I believe he's the one rebel that can really kind of cross over and make a difference for the hobby. This is a video. I'm going to show you a little clip of a video that I made over 2 years ago on Rob Veras. Listen to my remarks on Rob here.
I want to talk about Rob Veras for a minute. This guy has really, he's really grabbed my attention this past week. And he's grabbed my attention for some time now. I just haven't really processed all of my thoughts. But this guy is amazing. What this guy is doing in the hobby, I think he's one of the most underrated men. Let me rephrase that. He is one of the most underrated leaders in the industry today. His entire business plan is just laid out before our very eyes. The guy is an open book. The guy is an innovator. The guy is a trailblazer. The guy is a visionary. The guy is an apostle of this hobby, and he's severely underrated. Friends, be careful who you listen to. Be careful, because there's a lot of false prophets out there. I'm very cautious of who I listen to. Rob Veras is a man we should be listening to.
Rob's message today is one that he wants to put customers first. He wants the industry to be focused on building collectors and not gamblers, not a lottery ticket. And so he makes very strong comments about it. He's a man that has a lot of passion and vision on it. But here, let me show you this little clip that kind of started all of this.
But you know what my goal with this whole thing is? Is simply to give people an option when spending their hard-earned money in this business, and maybe going away from that fleeting moment of opening a product or being involved in a break, and to building something long-term and being able to go somewhere and get this satisfaction that simply is lacking in the industry right now. My goal here is to show you a completely different way to engage with this wonderful hobby of ours. And I think that the reason that the loudest mouths out there can get away with all this fractionalization is people haven't seen the alternative. They just haven't seen it yet. And we are going to bring that alternative to bear. The more I think about it, the more I am showing you the way. This is the way. We need to get people off the gambling kick, and we need to get them into the collecting kick. Because again, I got my son, I got my daughter. I want this industry to be just as vibrant a decade or 2 or 3 down the road as it is today. And in order to do that, we need folks to actually engage with cards, collect cards, and have that multi-generational aspect. Because you know what? If you are a father or a mother and you're into breaking and you see the results of it long term, are you going to encourage your kids to get in this with them breaking as well? I certainly hope not. I don't think that's quality parenting. That's just me. Could be wrong. What I would encourage, though, is if they have a passion for a certain player, collect that player. Maybe it's 10 or 15 cool cards that they could put into their collection and be able to branch out from there. That's how you build longevity in this. I see a lot of things that don't build longevity in this business, and I'm going to fix it. I have made this my personal mission to show people that you can spend $50 for a fleeting moment to get $15 return, or you can spend $50 and get 50 cards of your favorite player. How cool is that?
So as you can see, I can really get behind a man that has passion, purpose, somebody who has tenure. I have a tendency to lean towards the voice of wisdom rather than the voice of right now. The voice of right now concerns me in many different ways. And I believe this is the one principle that is missing in all of this. And that is, if we do not learn from our past mistakes, if we do not learn from our past sins, if we do not learn from past trends, then we're doomed to repeat them. There was a time, and it wasn't all that long ago, that there was a major decline within the hobby. And it was early 2000s to about mid 2000s. Right in there, between 2000 to 2005, there was a major decline, and there was a lot of reasons for it. And I want to discuss those points with you now. Back in these years, there was mass overproduction. There was just too many products being produced across all sports, and it overwhelmed collectors and diluted the market. We had Topps, Upper Deck, Donruss, Playoff, Fleer, and a bunch of others, and everybody, all these card manufacturers are pumping content uh, seemingly day after day, week after week. And there was just this lack of innovation that was going on during this time. We had a great boom with late 90s with autograph cards and jersey cards, low numbered, serial numbered stuff, and all of that. But it got to the point between 2003 and 2005, we had just seen so much of it that it's like collectors became desensitized to it. It just didn't carry as much weight as it used to. And it seemed like every single box had autograph and some form of jersey card that really didn't verify or didn't really mean a whole bunch. It was just a napkin card per se. Kids also having new entertainment options. When you look at the emergence of video games and the internet was now more widely available, and kids just seemed to lose interest in sports cards and really kind of considered it just something for like old people. There was some economic pressures as well. As you remember, the aftermath of 9/11 kind of just hit the country in a recession type of feel to what was going on. At the same time, the hobby introduced high-end product where boxes were being released for $500. In the secondary market, the prices were much higher. And this high-end product just gained a lot of people's attention. But it also discouraged a lot of people because many people, many collectors felt priced out of that genre of the hobby. Another challenge we had was the licensing issues that were going on within this time was just absolutely nuts. The whole entire industry just felt like it was falling apart at the seams. We had Fleer went bankrupt in 2002. Pacific, they stopped producing cards in 2004. Donruss lost its MLB license. You had Upper Deck and Topps constantly having these court battles going on. And this collapse of industry infrastructure just really gave the consumer confidence just came to an all-time low. There was just consumers did not trust the industry any longer. And can I stop here and ask you a real quick question? Does any of these points that I'm making here about this era, do any of them sound familiar to you and what's going on today? And then, of course, which I have heavily documented even in my book, just the consumer confusion of the rookie card collectors, and the hobby was just sick and tired of the gimmicks that were being displayed, product after product, manufacturer after manufacturer. They just made an absolute mess of the rookie card. You had checklist with 50 to 100 rookies in them, and they weren't even rookies. They had never even played in a major league game. These were most of these guys were prospects, and the chance of you actually pulling a decent name was extremely difficult. You had to open a ton of product to even had a chance at sniffing one of these. And then they loaded all of these so-called rookie cards up with parallels, so that made the odds of pulling something decent really, really difficult, because the majority of these players were scrubs. To summarize, the early to mid 2000s, it was just a combination of all of these things: the rookie card frustration, the economic stress, the licensing issues, the overproduction of product, the generation of kids just finding interest elsewhere. It was all of these things combined that just caused a mass exodus of people within the hobby. People just lost interest. The hobby just felt hollow. I mean, hardcore collectors, they stuck around, but the casual fan, the kids, the demand for sports card really diminished, and it wasn't there after the investors even left. And it just left the hobby was just a hollow shell of itself, and it's mainly because it was mismanaged. And for me personally, I would have to say it was a combination of the massive overproduction. I was trying to, I was a car dealer at this time, and I was trying to keep up with product, and I was really overspending, and the return on the investment wasn't coming back. And it was a lot of that artificial liquidity, as Dan, the card man, talks about, where I had to spend $300 to make $100, and that type of math just isn't mathing long term. And eventually, the overproduction of product did me in, on top of um, just the overprice. I was overpriced. I just could not keep up with the demand of product. The prices going up, and the high end became more of the focus, and it just raised the prices on everything else. And so this is the type of dangers that I see happening. A lot of this stuff happening today, you guys, especially the prices going up. And we can blame the licensing thing, we can blame it on tariffs, we can blame it on a lot of different things. The sad reality is that prices are going up, and there's a genre of collectors that are paying it. And that's where the casual collector then is not being able to keep up, but there are plenty of people buying product. So there's going to be a squeeze, even more of a squeeze coming for those on the lower end of the pole. And so it's one of them things where we have to adjust and be creative and find our lane as to which way we're going to go. Not get discouraged. You don't have to leave the hobby. Don't get discouraged with prices going up. We just have to pivot. We just have to be more wise with our financial dollars and make better decisions. This is why the message that Rob Veras is teaching is so important, because those who have been around, those who have lived through this, we kind of know what the end result is going to be. And that's what we're trying to prevent. It's not that we're old, or that we're trying to take all the fun out of collecting. No, we're trying to protect the hobby. And wisdom shows us that we've lived through these things already before, and we're starting to see the same trends. We're starting to see the same things happening, the same attitudes being formed, and we're just trying to get things back to center in order to protect the hobby long term. And it's how come I just love Rob for that, because He's the only man I know within the trenches that can make an impact to do the hobby right. Let's hobby correctly. The hobby is not a casino. It can be. There can be a genre, a section for that, but the spotlight shouldn't be on that. Okay, it needs to be a little bit more consumer friendly to the masses, and not to the 1% of hobby whales that can play in that gambling lane. So it's all about imaging, and I understand the times have changed. You know, a lot of this, I believe, is it's because gambling has become more widely accepted. We had the sports that are now gambling is legal and all these other things, but even they're having challenges. Hey, well, listen, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to leave you a link here to a video I did with Logan Ward. We're talking about the rookie cards of NASCAR racers. Now, trust me, you don't lose sight of this episode because of the title. Okay, I don't know nothing about NASCAR racing, and I wanted to talk to somebody who did. It's a very good, educational, interesting video. I promise you, if you check it out, you're going to enjoy it. So don't lose sight of this video. It hasn't gotten a lot of views, and surprisingly, and I think it's because NASCAR racing, perhaps people don't know a lot about it. I challenge you to check out this video, learn a little something different. I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, my friends, that not all rookie cards are created equal. Until next time, buenos nachos, muchachos.